Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Dan from DHTV, and today I'm going to be showing you how to use the iPhone SE 2022 camera. Let's get started. All right, now we're going to go through everything you can do with the new iPhone SE 3 camera, and we're going to go through the basics, and then we're going to work our way through the features, all the settings and options, and some tips and tricks. So if you do want to skip ahead, there's chapters with timestamps in the description so you can learn exactly what you want. For now, we're going to start with the basics, and that's just by opening the camera app and then going to the photo section. Now, if you opened up the camera app and it didn't open to photos, you can navigate just by swiping left or right, and it'll take you through all the photo and video options that are available with the iPhone camera. We're going to start with photos, and we're going to start with taking a basic picture. And you're going to use the shutter button right here. All you want to do is align your camera to what you want to take a photo of, and then just tap and it'll take your photo. Anytime you take a photo, a preview appears at the bottom left. You can tap to preview it, and this is where all of your photo editing options are available. So you'll be able to see the photo right here. You have some share options at the bottom left. If you tap, you'll be able to share it through messages, email, even print it if you have a wireless printing ability. You have a favorite button here or a heart. You have information about the photo. And then you have your editing options where you can resize, modify the photo, adjust it any way you'd like. I'm not going to go over all these options because I have a complete tutorial on how to edit photos with the iPhone. There's a link to that in the description. You can watch that when you're done with this video. The last option is a trash bin. If you don't like the photo, you can tap that, tap delete, it'll trash the photo, and that's it. If you want to go back to the camera app, just tap this button at the top left and it'll take you back. Now, obviously, there are some quick settings and some more advanced options when taking photos that you'd want to take advantage of when you're doing so. So first, tap to focus. You can tap on the subject to focus into whatever you want to focus on and then take your photo. In that same sense, you can swipe up and down on the tap. So if you tap to focus, swipe up and down, and that way you have control over the exposure. So once you're all set, you can take your photo. But one thing to keep in mind when you tap to focus, if you move around too much, it's going to go back to the autofocus. So your focused subject won't be in focus anymore. So if you want to lock the focus, you can tap and hold on the subject. You'll see it'll lock it. AEAF lock, it locks the focus and the exposure, and then you can take your photo like normal. Additionally, there are more advanced options. You can tap that little arrow up top, and that's going to bring up your options at the bottom. So let's go through each one. The first one is our flash, and right now it's set to auto, but you can set it to on or off. If we turn it on and take our photo, you can see it simply puts a flash. You'll also notice when you enable settings that they become yellow and appear at the top. We're just going to turn it back to auto for now. The next option is live photos, and it's set to live auto. You can turn it on or off as well. When it's on, what it's going to do is capture about a second before and a second after of your photo, including audio. So for example, any movement in the photo beforehand, whatever is happening, you take your photo and then there's some movement afterwards. If we look at the preview, you'll see live at the top. If you hold your finger over, you'll see that you have that little bit of movie or movement within the video and the audio. This is great if you're taking a photo of a lot of people. For example, we tap edit and we tap this little live icon. That whole live video there, we can actually go through each frame and find the perfect moment that fits with what we're doing. And then you can make it your key photo, and that way you have the perfect photo every time. It's great if you have a group of people and not everyone was smiling. You can find the moment where they were all smiling and just save it as the key photo. We'll just turn it back to auto for now. The next option here will allow you to change the setting of your photo. So right now we're in standard. You can go to rich contrast, vibrant, warm, cool, and in each one you can tap on these options and modify them even more yourself. For now though, we're just going to leave this right here on standard, but you can always come back here and change it if you'd like. The next option is the size or the dimensions of your photo. So by default, it's 4:3. You can choose 16:9, and you can see what it does with the camera. And then you also have square photos. These are great for Instagram, or if you post on eBay, these are great for that. We'll set it back to 4:3. The next option is another exposure dial. This one gives you the ability to control it right here. That way you don't have to play around with it on screen with the focus. Set it here. Anytime you want to exit any option too, you can just tap on the little icon there. It brings you back to the main option screen. The last option here is a timer, and this is a great feature, especially if you don't have anyone to hold the camera. You can set a timer, mount your camera somewhere or your phone somewhere, lean it on a wall, take your photo. You have 3 seconds. You can see the countdown, get into the frame, and it'll take the photo. Same thing, all your photos end up in the preview in the bottom left. One thing to keep in mind when you do have the timer on, it's going to stay on. So make sure you turn it back off. Otherwise, your next photo is going to go through the timer and you might miss that moment. One more option, it's hidden here. If you just swipe a little bit more to the left, it's right there. This is actually your live filters, and just like filters on Instagram, you can see what it does to the actual photo. You don't need to use them here, and if you do, you can always modify them and turn them off after an edit, or you can add them in if you didn't use them in the editor as well. You just basically choose what you like, take your photo, and it'll be taken with that live filter. So those are the options you have with the photo section. To exit your options, you just tap the arrow up top and you're back to your main screen here. Now you also have an option at the bottom right, and this is going to flip to the front facing camera. When you flip to the front, you can see me here. And basically this is going to allow you to access all those same features just on the front. You'll be able to pull up to get those options in here. You can see they're all available as well. So this is also going to work with all the other sections as well, other than the panoramic mode. Panoramic here, you only have the rear facing camera, and I'll show you how to use panoramic in just a little bit. Now let's move over to the portrait mode. Now portrait mode is a great feature. What it does is basically blur the background of the subject, and that way giving you that really cool effect. And you have a whole bunch of different lights that you can use right here. But you can see up top it says no person detected. So that means with the iPhone SE 2022, the 3rd generation, you don't have the ability to use portrait mode on anything but people. So I guess for this example, we'll flip to the front facing camera. Portrait's available there as well. And now you can see that it's gathering me, and it's sort of blurring out that background there. So if I change the different options to studio light, contour, stage light mono, and then key light mono, these are the options you have. Now let's just say we were going to use the natural. Okay, we can then see up top we have a little F. If we tap on that, it'll bring up the little option here where we can control that depth of field. So if I go all the way to the end here, you can see the background's not blurred at all. If I take it all the way to the beginning, you can see it really blurs out the background. It's not the best picture because I got a camera in front of me, but this is the best way I can show you the example here. But you can see the effect that it does. You can tap on it there as well, and you can always modify this. So if you do take the photo, you can go in your editor here, and you can see it says portrait up top. If you tap edit, you do have the ability to change all of these after as well. So don't feel like you made a choice in your photo and you can't change it. You can even change how much blur from the editor here as well. So if you wanted to remove it, you could as well. So that's portrait mode. And again, you can pull down to bring yourself back to those options here. Moving all the way over to video, and we'll flip back to the rear facing camera. This works just like it did with photos. So you have all the same options. You can tap to focus, you can change the exposure. And one option I didn't show you in photos, it is zooming. So you can zoom in by pinching to zoom, and you can see a little bar appears. Reason why I don't really show this is because it's a digital zoom, and that really degrades the photo and the video when you zoom in too much. It is there if you need it. I wouldn't recommend using it. I'd recommend you get closer to your subject whenever possible. Otherwise, it does tend to blur out the photo and make it pixelated, especially when you get really zoomed in. But either way, when you open up the video section, you'll see what option you have available here. Right now it's at HD at 30, and you can change this to 4K at 30. You can change it to 4K at 60, HD at 60, and then HD at 30 as well. HD is 1080p, and 4K is 4K. When you have 4K at 60 frames per second, it's going to use the most space on your phone. So if you have a 64 gigabyte model, might not be a good idea to use too much 4K at 60 because it's going to use up a lot of space. Either way, from here, you can pull upwards on the screen to bring up your options here. Whenever you don't see that little arrow, you pull up to grab your options. Here you have a light, so when you turn it on, there's a light. It's not like a flash, but it's an actual light. If we turn it off, you'll see it changes the light to off, and then you have your exposure controls right there. When you're ready to take your video, just tap on the record button. You'll see your timer at the top. You have your stop button, and then you have another button here. This is going to allow you to take a photo while you're shooting a video. So if there's something going on that you don't want to miss and you want to capture the moment, just tap on that shutter button. It'll take the photo as well. When you're done, you tap stop on the video, and then you can tap on the preview and it's going to play. You can see the little monitor moving across. Nothing really happening on screen because I didn't have any movement, but you can also tap edit here and you'll see you have a video editor, which again, you can watch my video, which shows you how to edit photos and videos with your iPhone, but that's where the editor is as well. Once again, we'll pull down to remove those options and we'll move one more over to slow-mo. This works exactly as video, except it's going to create a slow motion effect. And we have HD at 240 frames per second, which is the slowest. If you tap on it, it's going to be HD at 120, which is a little bit faster. Both HDs are 1080p. Once again, you have all those same options. You pull up, you'll have your light, your exposure, tap to focus. And when you're ready, you just tap on the shutter button to start. So I'm just going to throw this duck and you'll see how the slow motion effect works. And we'll stop it. And if we preview, and there's that slow motion effect. So if you use your creativity, especially with sports or action shots, using slow-mo makes it look really cool. So we'll pull down and we'll move one more over. Now time-lapse is like the reverse of slow-mo. It's going to be a time-lapse of what's going on. So it's going to speed things up. So if you're trying to catch the sunset and you have your camera mounted outside and just leave it there all night, you can turn something that took you maybe 24 hours to record into something that might take 30 seconds to play. So you turn it on by just tapping and you just wait. And what it does is record and speed it up. So I'm showing you on screen here an example and you can see exactly what it's doing. You can see that the clouds are moving and the sun and all that. That's the effect you'll get. So again, you're going to use your creativity to make this time-lapse look really cool. Moving all the way back now to Pano. This is panoramic photos. Now the best way to show this, I'm going to put the ducks way out here. So right now, what we see here on the camera is the main duck and 3 ducks in the background. What this is going to allow me to do is grab all this space, drag it across here like this, and then I can actually capture it all in one photo. So what you do is you basically just set it up. You tap this button right here, and then as slowly and accurately as you can, you're dragging across. And then you stop it. Now I had to curve mine just so that it would stay on screen, but you'd be a lot more steady with yours. And you can see it grabbed all those ducks, the wall. You'll see that curve right there, but that's because I had to turn mine on an angle. The straighter you are and the more steady you are, the better it's going to look, and you can take some really cool panoramic photos of like cityscape or even oceans and things like that. Really cool effect. And if you do use this, you can go left to right. If you tap on it, you can go right to left. Unfortunately, the only options you have is tap to focus. You can't actually change anything else or zoom or anything with panoramic. So those are the options you have with your camera application. Let's go through the settings now so that you can customize and configure this even more. So for the settings, we're going to open the settings application and scroll down to where you have the camera application. And you're going to tap that, and this is going to bring up all the camera settings. The first one is formats, and you have 2 options, high efficiency and most compatible. High efficiency is the best to have all the options that are available with your camera app. However, it uses an HEIF HEVC format, and it also makes the photos and videos a little bit larger and harder to convert when you transfer them to computers or non-Apple devices. It just takes a little bit longer and sometimes doesn't work. So if you're finding it doesn't work, you go to most compatible, which is going to let you use JPEG or JPEG, which is mostly what we know when we talk about photos and things like that. But if you do choose most compatible, you can't shoot 4K at 60 frames per second. You can still shoot 4K at 30 frames, and you can't shoot 1080p at 240 for the slow motion. You'll have to use the 120 frame rate. So keep that in mind depending on which option you choose. You can try high efficiency. If it doesn't work for you, just move to most compatible. Next option is your record video presets. And you can see right now we have our set to always turn on to 1080p at 30 frames per second. That's the one I use most. It's the easiest, it gives good quality, and it doesn't take up too much space. You have how much space each option will take up down here. Obviously 720 will be the least, 4K at 60 will be the most. You do have 4K at 24. If there's a reason for you to use that, you can preset it to that one there. That way it does appear in the camera app. But you just want to choose what best fits your needs here. And then you can scroll down. You have show PAL formats for television video formats used in countries like Europe, Africa, Asia, and South America. If it applies to you, just turn that on. And then you have the auto FPS, which right now is set to auto 30 frames per second. And it's going to automatically reduce the frame rate to improve low light video and to optimize the size. So you can leave it at auto 30, or you can set it to auto 3060 or off. And everything I leave it on here is what I tend to use for the most part. Next one is record slow-mo, and you can see again, you're just setting your preset. So mine is at the 240. I like the slower effect of 240. If you want it to set to 120, you can set it there. That way when you open slow motion, it always starts at that setting. Record stereo sound. That way it records stereo sound. Otherwise turn it off if you prefer not. Preserve settings is a good feature. What it does is preserve the last setting you had open. Anytime you open the camera app on the phone, so for example, if we open camera, you can see it opens to photos. If you don't use photos that much, or you use videos or any other presets, you can have those set. So if I'm on video here, and now I go to the camera mode and I turn that on, anytime I open the camera app, I'm just gonna close it right here, and we'll just open it one more time. It should open in video. What it does is save the last option that you had open, and it always opens to that last option. So whatever you close the app in is what it's gonna open in next time, and you can save it for the creative controls, exposure adjustments, and your live photo. I don't leave it on because I'm happy with photos being the standard option that opens. Use volume up for burst. I have this enabled. What this does is allow you to use your volume rocker to create the burst photos. I'll show you that in the tips section. The next one is scan QR codes. If you have anything with a QR code, something like this right here, if you have the camera app open and you have the QR code on screen, you'll see an option appear right here. You can tap on it. It'll open that web page right from the QR code. In that same sense, we have another option here in the settings right under it called Show Detected Text. This is going to allow your camera to read text on any item. For example, this paper here, if we just drag it across on camera, you'll see it's put a little box around it, and we can tap this icon down here. It creates this little snapshot and gives you options up top. You can copy the text, select it. So for example, if I copy it and I wanted to save that text, if I open my notes app and I tap here, I can paste it right in, and it pastes it in actual text. So it's a pretty cool feature, especially if you're on the go. You don't have time to type it out. Just take a quick picture, grab it, and there you go. You can just paste it right into your notes app, and it's in actual text. So that's the Show Detect Text. The next option is grid. I love using the grid. You've seen it through this entire video. Basically what the grid is, if you open the camera app here, it's these lines that you're seeing. If you don't have it on, you won't see those lines. I use this to sort of center what I'm working with, but it has something to do with the rule of thirds. So if you do want to learn about that, you can search that up on Google, get some more information, but I like to have that on for myself. And then I've got mirror front camera on as well. Now, if I turn it off, I'll show you what happens. It works with the front facing camera. So you can see me, I'm on the left or I'm on the right here, and you can see the words are backwards. When you take a photo, what it does is actually flip you to the other side, and the words are forward. They're the way you would normally see them. A lot of people don't like this. I don't mind it. But if you turn mirror front camera on and you go back into your camera app here, now if I take that photo on the same side, you can see I'm on the same side. All the writing is backwards. So now you can actually control that straight from the settings application on the iPhone. Very big feature that a lot of people were upset wasn't there. That's actually a tip. So it's part of the tips and it's part of the settings section here. Moving down, we have the photographic styles. I showed you that in the actual camera app. You can modify that and turn it on to whatever setting you want. But if you want it to be standard on one of these, you can set it here to cool or whatever, and it'll always open with those photographic styles on. I leave mine on standard, and I can just change it with the settings in the camera app. Lastly, we have prioritize faster shooting when it's on, intelligently adapt image quality when rapidly pressing the shutter. So you can turn that on and off depending on what you want to use. Now let's get into some quick tips and tricks. I just showed you one of the big ones, which was the mirror, the front-facing camera. But if you do want to use different modes in photo, if you pull to the right here, when you're taking a photo, you'll actually create a quick video or quick take video, and that'll allow you to quick take a video, and then you can tap stop to stop it. If you pull to the left and hold, it's using a burst photo, which takes a whole bunch of photos within a second. You can see 20 photos there in probably under a second. And if you do tap here where it says select, you can go through all those photos and keep the ones you want, keep the one you want, delete the ones you don't. That way, if you have like a lot of movement going on and you want to capture that moment, you can use burst. And if you want to delete them all, you can always delete the whole burst, which is nice as well. Additionally, when you're holding the camera horizontally or in landscape mode, you can use these two volume rockers to perform those same actions. If you push the volume up rocker and hold it, it'll take those burst photos. If you push and hold on the bottom volume rocker, you've got the quick take video, and you let go and it'll stop. So you can use these two in the same fashion. Keep in mind, in the settings, you do need to have the volume up for burst to use that feature. Otherwise, both will then just use the quick take video. Lastly, whenever you're taking photos in the camera app, it's best to have good lighting. The lighting makes a huge difference. If you have low lighting, you run into situations where things look grainy, you get kind of pixelated effects, and you also want to make sure the lighting is not behind the subject, because then it gets into the lens and things look really dark unless you're trying for that effect with your photo. So try to keep the lighting on top or in front of the subject. Try to use natural light whenever possible. These are going to help you get the best photo. And as I've heard, whenever you're taking a photo too, if you hold it up and tilt downwards on the subject, creates like a long or slimming effect. That's what I've heard. So you can give that a try as well. But that's it. That's how you use the iPhone SE3 camera. This is the tutorial. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments below. I'm happy to help you out. If you found this video helpful or enjoyable, hit that like button, subscribe, and click the bell notification box to be notified when I post new videos. If you're looking for more great tips, tricks, and tutorials, there's a full playlist in the description to help you get the most out of your iPhone. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.